Sometimes the deepest betrayals happen not out of hatred, but out of comfort. When someone becomes so sure you'll stay, they stop choosing you altogether. Welcome to Broken Truth, where love meets lies, and every story reveals the pain behind the smile. They betrayed you because they no longer feared losing you. When love turns one-sided, the balance shifts. Your forgiveness becomes a pattern. Your silence becomes their permission. Over time, they begin to believe you'll always be there. No matter how many times they let you down, there's no urgency, no effort, no accountability, because they assume your loyalty is endless. And in that comfort, they stop valuing you. Betrayal, then, is not always about wanting someone else. Sometimes it's about forgetting to honor the one who stayed. They don't cheat out of passion, they stray out of complacency because they've already decided you won't leave. He never slammed the door. That's the thing I keep coming back to. There was no fight, no fracture, just a gradual slipping away, like sand leaking from a closed fist. I don't remember the first time he forgot to call back. Maybe because it didn't hurt then. Maybe because I still believe that when people love you, they return. Eventually, I gave him so much time, space, grace, all the things I thought love was supposed to be. And he took them quietly, like they were owed to him, not once looking back to see if I was running out. We used to stay up till 3 a.m., dreaming about lives we hadn't lived yet. He would hold my hand and draw invisible maps on my skin, all the places he wanted us to go. But even dreams die if they're never fed. Eventually, his voice grew. Quieter in the room, he started texting instead of talking. I started asking less and giving more, and the silence, at first gentle, began to settle like dust on everything we once touched. He didn't cheat in the way movies show. No lipstick. Stains, no hurried apologies. He betrayed in sighs, in forgotten plans, and promises said on autopilot. He betrayed in the way he stopped noticing that I was still choosing him every morning, even when he no longer did the same. You see, I made it too easy to stay. I let him be sure of me. I let my loyalty become his safety net, and slowly, he stopped trying, not because he stopped caring, but because he thought he didn't have to anymore. He became comfortable in the idea of me, and that's where the unraveling began. I'd wait up, watching the clock like it owed me something. I'd make dinner even when I knew he wouldn't come home hungry. I memorized the way he distanced himself, first emotionally, then physically, until his body was there, but his spirit was not. I told myself it was a phase, that maybe he was tired, that maybe love becomes quieter over time, but love should never feel like being invisible in your own home. He stopped asking about my day, stopped remembering what color I liked to wear on Sundays. He'd listen, sure, but never really hear. I'd talk about the books I was reading, and he'd nod while scrolling through his phone. I'd cry silently in the bathroom some nights, and he'd sleep soundly, as if peace still lived between us. I think the worst kind of betrayal is when they don't leave. They just stop showing up, and you stay and stay and stay, because you're too afraid to be the one who gives up first, because you've built your identity around being the one who stays. One night, I sat on the kitchen floor with cold coffee and colder hands. The apartment was too quiet, and yet somehow his absence screamed through every corner. I realized then I wasn't waiting for him to come home. I was waiting for him to come back to me, and he hadn't done that in a long time. It hit me in a breathless wave. He wasn't loving me anymore, just coexisting. I had become the background noise of his comfort. And he didn't fear losing me because I never let him. Every time he pulled away, I reached further. Every time he forgot, I remembered. Every time he faltered, I forgave. I thought that was strength. I thought that was love. But it was surrender, a soft, slow surrender of self. The night I left, he didn't even ask why, just looked at me like he was watching a light go out, and maybe, in a way, he was I packed quietly, no dramatic tears, just folded shirts and folded memories. The kind of grief that doesn't scream, just sits heavily in your throat. Because when someone betrays you without breaking you, it's harder to leave. You start believing maybe this is what love turns into, a dull ache that you learn to live with, but I couldn't anymore. It wasn't that I wasn't enough. It was that I made him feel too sure I'd always be there. And in that surety, he stopped seeing me. Love should make you feel safe, but not invisible. It should offer comfort, but not laziness. Somewhere along the way, he stopped choosing me because I stopped making him feel like he had to. And now I live in a smaller apartment with fewer things and quieter nights, but at least the silence is honest. At least it doesn't ask me to keep proving my worth. At least I don't have to fight for space in a room where I am the only heartbeat. Sometimes the deepest healing begins not when someone says they're sorry, but when you finally stop waiting for them to notice they should be. And that's where I am now, not healed, but honest. Not whole, but mine again. She used to think love was about showing up, no matter what. She thought patience was a virtue, that loyalty was something you proved, not just felt, and for the longest time, that's exactly what she did. She showed up through missed calls, through quiet nights, through long weekends where his attention wandered but his body stayed. She was there every time, quietly holding things together, quietly hoping he'd see how much she cared. It started small, the first signs. He began forgetting things, not important dates, but important moments, the ones she shared in passing, the ones that mattered because they were hers. He would forget she had a big meeting or that she was nervous about seeing her parents, and she'd remind herself, he's just busy, he's tired, life is loud. So she lowered the volume of her own needs. They stopped having real conversations. She'd ask how his day was, and he'd answer with one word, fine, then scroll through his phone while she sat 2 feet away. Feeling 10 miles apart, she'd tell him about a new book she was reading. And he'd nod, not really listening, but she kept sharing. Because that's what you do when you love someone. She was always the one who reached out first. Texted first, apologized first, forgave first. Even when she wasn't the one who messed up, even when her heart ached quietly in the background of his comfort, she thought maybe love meant holding space, so she made room for his bad days, for his silence, for his mistakes, and in doing so, she pushed herself further and further into the margins. It wasn't that he didn't love her, but he loved her like a certainty, like a fixture. He loved her the way people love the ceiling fan, never noticing it until it stopped spinning. One evening, they sat across from each other at dinner. She had planned the night, cooked his favorite, lit candles, put on the soft music they used to dance to, and he barely looked up from his phone. She said, "You don't even see me anymore." He replied without thinking, "I know you're there." And that was the moment she knew he didn't fear losing her, because she had never given him a reason to. She had always been there, always forgiven, always stayed, and somehow, in doing everything right, she had made it too easy for him to stop trying. That night, she sat by the window long. After he'd gone to bed, not crying, just understanding, not angry, just finally honest with herself. She thought about all the times she'd let herself be the one who gave more, how she'd measured her worth and how much she could endure, and how, somewhere along the way, she forgot that love should feel like being held to, not just holding someone else up. The next morning, she didn't pack in a hurry. She didn't make a scene. She made coffee, folded some clothes, and when he asked, "Where are you going?" she said gently, "Somewhere I feel seen." He looked confused, like he hadn't realized she had needs. And maybe she hadn't let him realize it either. Maybe she had taught him over and over again that she'd stay no matter what. But people don't leave because they want to. They leave when staying starts to cost them too much of themselves. She moved into a small apartment with pale curtains and a quiet that didn't feel like punishment. At first, the silence was loud. She missed the comfort of a familiar presence. But in time, she found peace in the stillness. She found herself again in long walks, in simple meals, and friends she had pushed aside. She remembered how it felt to laugh without shrinking, to speak without editing. She started writing again. Letters to herself, reminders. I don't need to earn love by disappearing. I am not only worthy when I am needed. I can be soft and still ask to be met halfway. She didn't swear off love. She just promised herself that next time, she would not be the only one carrying the weight. She would not fall for someone who needed her more than they saw her. And she would not confuse loyalty with self-abandonment. People betray not always out of cruelty, but often out of comfort. And the most dangerous kind of comfort is the one that forgets to be grateful. She had given him everything without asking for much in return. But now she was learning to ask, to expect, to believe that she deserved someone who saw her not as a guarantee, but as a gift. And maybe one day, love would come again, quieter, truer, with someone who didn't need to lose her to realize what they had. But until then, she was here, whole, healing, and finally free. If you've ever felt like someone betrayed you because they thought you'd never leave, you're not alone. Don't forget to subscribe for more honest stories that expose the broken truth.